To learn more about earning college credits with study hall courses, go to gostudyhall.com or click the link in the description. If you could pick anyone at all to be the next president of the United States, who would it be and why would it be the Scarlet Witch? Maybe you want someone completely different from every president who's come before, like a woman, or someone at the minimum age of 35. Or maybe someone devoted to a specific issue, like a climate scientist or an epidemiologist. Or maybe, just maybe, you think what the country really needs is a fox in green tights. I'm talking about Robin Hood, of course, a president devoted to stealing from the rich to give to the poor, outsmarting his adversaries and practicing archery in his spare time. Sounds ideal. But in the real world, Robin Hood might not get very far in a presidential campaign. During their campaigns, presidential hopefuls suggest proposals for how the government should spend its money, and how they plan to control the economy or help the environment. And some voters might not be so excited by the whole steal from the rich bit. But since the president plays a huge role in making those policy decisions, it makes a big difference whether the president is Robin Hood or his enemy Prince John or someone in between. Hi, I'm Chris Vasquez, and this is Study Hall Power and Politics in US Government. Of course, if Robin Hood or Prince John did become president, they wouldn't be able to just do whatever they want. They would need to work with the rest of the government to create a strategy for what problems to tackle and how to tackle them. The result of that work would be public policy. That's a comprehensive term that refers to how the government actually governs. For example, the government passes public policy when it passes legislation in public health or education or drug use prevention. Because the term is so broad, we can divide it into more specific types of policy, based on who benefits and who ends up paying for it. And to help us better understand each type, we'll place them on the classic public policy meter that we completely made up, the Robin Hood scale. On our scale, the horizontal axis shows us where the money comes from, ranging of course from the sheriff of Nottingham who overtaxes the poor, to Robin Hood who steals from the rich. The vertical axis, on the other hand, shows who benefits from this money, ranging from the people of Nottingham to Prince John. So public policy can land in one of four quadrants. For example, a policy proposed by Robin Hood would likely fall in the top right quadrant, while Prince John's policies fall in the bottom left. In the United States, we generally have three types of public policy. The first type are known as distributive policies, which are used to assign resources or funds to people or groups. Essentially, it's in the name. They distribute things. Distributive policies tend to have diffuse costs and concentrated benefits. This means that many people contribute their efforts or money to make the policy happen, but the benefits are only felt by a smaller group of people. Some infrastructure projects, like the Hoover Dam, are good examples of distributive policies. Built in the 1930s, the Hoover Dam cost more than $600 million in 2023 money, which all came from the federal government by way of taxpayer dollars. States on the East Coast and in the Midwest had to pay into the project, but wouldn't see any immediate or direct benefit from it. Meanwhile, states like California and Nevada got to enjoy the dam to the fullest. The Hoover Dam not only generated hydroelectricity, but it also helped control the area's frequent floods and offered water supply during the tough drought season. And the Hoover Dam was able to pay back the government through the sale of electricity, but it took decades. So the states involved probably couldn't have borne the financial burden of the project by themselves. So it might seem like distributive policies would land somewhere in the lower left quadrant of the Robin Hood scale. The people's taxes pay, but all of the people don't necessarily benefit. However, these policies also tend to have long-term and wide-ranging benefits that impact people more broadly, like providing jobs or tourism opportunities, protecting the environment, and putting less pressure on agriculture in the rest of the country. So even though on the surface these policies don't benefit everyone who pays, the spread of costs and benefits makes them a lot more palatable to a lot of people in the United States. And that shifts them a bit closer to the center of the Robin Hood scale. Next up is regulatory policies, which again regulate individuals or companies while looking out for public interests. And in contrast to distributive policies, regulatory policies tend to involve more concentrated costs and diffuse benefits. A few groups or people bear the financial cost of the policy, but the benefits are felt broadly throughout society. Regulatory policies are usually concentrated in the areas of public health and safety, like removing lead from gasoline or requiring airbags in cars. In 2023, cars have modern safety features like backup cameras, lane correction, and strategic airbags, which is great when a passenger princess like me has to get behind the wheel. But airbags weren't used until the 1970s, and even then, they weren't all that popular compared to seatbelts. And that's saying something, because seatbelts weren't used by the majority of drivers until 1991. And we still have one state that doesn't require people over 18 to wear seatbelts. New Hampshire's really living up to that live free or die motto. To be fair, early airbags weren't the most effective. A study from 1973 found that 3-point seatbelts were safer than airbags, which might at least partially explain why manufacturers were so slow to include these features in their cars. But airbag technology evolved, and in the mid-90s, a law came into effect that required car manufacturers to include airbags in every vehicle. So car companies had to alter their manufacturing process to make sure they were including adequate safety features features in all new cars. In theory, a law like this would mostly affect manufacturers because they were the ones having to shift their processes, hire additional workers, and develop new training, which would be expensive. These changes might cut into their profit margins a little bit, but the government deemed that it was worth asking companies to spend more in order to widely benefit the public. But of course, companies also have ways of dealing with these added costs, mostly by passing them on to consumers instead. Regulatory policies are unpopular among business executives, because having to incorporate new safety procedures really gets in the way of maximizing profit, but they ultimately benefit a lot of people. So Robinhood might be a fan of regulatory policies, if the costs are covered by the companies, that is. Paid for by the rich for the benefit of the people of Nottingham and their mid-sized sedans. The third kind of public policy is known as redistributive policies. These have both concentrated costs and concentrated benefits, meaning, you guessed it, they redistribute money from specific groups of people or businesses to another specific group of people. This can look really similar to distributive policies because ultimately, it's taxpayer dollars that are funding the policies. The difference is that depending on income level, people in the United States pay different types and amounts of taxes that are allocated for different things. In this case, income taxes from middle class and wealthy people can go towards social programs that benefit lower income people. Redistributive systems are designed to help disenfranchised and less fortunate people, and it's a solidly Robinhood policy. For example, Head Start is a program that helps prepare kids from lower income families for school by providing early education opportunities like free preschool and screening for behavioral and medical needs. To qualify, a family generally has to fall at or below the federal poverty level. Programs like Head Start act as a safety net to keep people from falling into extreme poverty. Other redistributive policies like food stamps and affordable housing projects also provide critical help to almost 100 million people throughout the US. And another kind of program in the United States benefits even more people. Entitlements are specific programs where everyone who contributes to and qualifies for the program is entitled to its benefits. Some of the biggest domestic policy programs in the US are examples of entitlements. These programs, which include things like Medicare and Social Security, are funded through payroll taxes, meaning the money comes from employers and employees of all income levels. With Social Security, people who are disabled or retired collect monthly payments from the government, allowing them to survive on a stable income. And it's the same deal with Medicare, which provides insurance for people older than 65 or people with certain disabilities. So because everyone in the US can contribute and everyone in the US can benefit, entitlements might also fall somewhere near the middle of our Robinhood scale. So what does all this mean? Could a Robinhood type be the president of the United States? I mean, none of the current US public policy types really seem like they're all that far off from Robinhood on our trusty scale. Well, it's not quite that simple. Even in the many versions of the Robinhood story, it's not quite that simple. After all, at least in some tellings, Prince John was really collecting taxes to pay the ransom so the great King Richard could come back and rule, and Robin Hood was really just taking the people's own money and giving it back to them. Plus, even the kids watching the Disney version know that stealing is not necessarily a great solution. Lots of people in the US would not take kindly to a guy in green tights taking their money, regardless of what purpose it was going to serve. There's a deep-held view in the United States that anyone can succeed if they work hard enough, and those who aren't succeeding need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and try harder. But even if you're for redistributive policies, they can't solve all of the poverty and inequality in the country. Programs like Head Start provide temporary social assistance, but they weren't designed to solve the bigger problem and completely eradicate poverty, because they don't really get at the systemic factors like racism, wage gaps, and disability discrimination that makes it nearly impossible for many people to escape poverty. And while entitlements are currently a self-sustaining, ongoing government expense, that won't last forever. Social Security and Medicare aren't part of the government's discretionary spending, or the annual budget that the government reconsiders and renews each year. Instead, entitlements are considered mandatory spending. They're basically on autopilot, since they collect and distribute funds each year according to set rules. But people are living longer, and baby boomers represent a large percentage of the population who are retiring and cashing in on Social Security and Medicare benefits at the same time. There hasn't been another baby boom, so our workforce will shrink and more people will be taking money from these programs than contributing to them. So Congress will have to consider either raising payroll taxes or cutting benefits by the early 2030s in order to keep these programs running, which may all be an argument that we need Robinhood more than ever. Public policy and social programs play a significant role in supporting the lives of millions of people. They provide highway systems and support agriculture. They promote public safety and make sure Americans are fed and educated. But they can only do that if they have adequate funding. That funding has to come from somewhere, and some individuals, organizations, and companies have more funds to spare than others. So it's up to us if we'd rather have our money handled by Prince John or Robin Hood. But either way, these kinds of public policies are the ways that our elected officials help themselves, help businesses, and help us and those around us. Public policy is supposed to reflect the preferences of voters, so the way to make sure they do that is to vote, even if none of the candidates quite live up to your imagined ideal president. If you're enjoying Study Hall, Power and Politics in US Government and are interested in taking an online course and earning college credit, go to gostudyhall.com or click on the button to learn more. Thanks for watching. See you next time.